In a sealed cathedral vault in Eastern Europe lies something that has scientists completely baffled. A human body. 900 years old. No embalming. No chemicals. No modern preservation of any kind. By every scientific standard, this should be a skeleton. Fragments of bone. Nothing more. Instead, look at this. Soft tissue intact. Features clearly recognizable. Skin that appears as if death occurred weeks ago, not 9 centuries. Medical researchers have examined it. Forensic experts have analyzed it. They all reach the same impossible conclusion. This shouldn't exist. Every year, over 1 million people travel here to witness this mystery with their own eyes. Some report unexplainable warmth near the glass. Others smell roses where there are none. Many leave unable to speak, overwhelmed by something they can't explain. But behind this impossible mystery lies a story that's been buried for centuries. A radical choice at age 15. Decades in the harshest desert on Earth. Miracles that hundreds witnessed. A body discovered intact centuries later. A fire that should have destroyed everything. And a scientific mystery that continues today. This is the incorruptible body of Saint Paraskeva. And today, you're going to discover the truth behind this 900-year enigma. Welcome to Truth Through Time, where we explore history's greatest mysteries and the truths that transcend time itself. I'm your host, and if you're fascinated by stories that challenge everything we think we know about the world, you're in the right place. In the next 16 minutes, you're going to discover answers to questions that have haunted historians, doctors, and believers for centuries. Who was she before the impossible happened? What did a 10-year-old girl hear that made her abandon a fortune? What did she experience in deserts so brutal that seasoned monks called them the killing grounds? How was her body found completely intact after being buried for generations? Why did everything around her burn to ashes in 1888? Except her? And what do doctors say today when confronted with evidence that medical science says is impossible? By the end, you'll understand why 9 centuries later, scientists remain utterly baffled. But first, we need to go back to the beginning. The year is 1025. While Western Europe struggles through the Dark Ages, plagued by poverty, illiteracy, and constant warfare, the Byzantine Empire dominates the known world. Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, is the wealthiest, most advanced city on Earth. Gold flows through its markets like water. Silk and spices arrive from the Silk Road. Ancient Greek philosophy is preserved in massive libraries. Engineering marvels like the Hagia Sophia Tower over the city. This is the civilization that would survive for another 4 centuries, the direct continuation of the Roman Empire, bridging the ancient and medieval worlds. Along the coast of the Sea of Marmara, just outside the imperial capital, lies a prosperous village called Epivates. Wealthy merchant families. Byzantine officials. Minor nobility conducting trade between Europe and Asia. It's here that a girl is born into privilege and prosperity. Her parents name her Paraskeva, Greek for Friday, the day of Christ's crucifixion. A common name. A respected family. A future already mapped out. As she grows, she has everything a girl in that world could desire. Fine clothes woven with gold thread. Servants who cater to her every need. Private tutors. A beautiful home overlooking the sea. Her parents are already planning her future. A strategic marriage to another wealthy merchant family, children who will continue the family legacy, a life of comfort and social standing. But something is different about this child. While other girls her age dream of marriage celebrations and fine jewelry, Paraskeva asks questions that make even priests uncomfortable. Why did Christ say to give away everything? What did he mean when he said, "Take up your cross and follow me"? If heaven is eternal and earth is temporary, why does everyone care so much about temporary things? Her parents dismiss it as childhood curiosity. Philosophical musings that she'll outgrow. They have no idea what's coming. Because at age 10, during an ordinary Sunday morning service, she's about to hear 7 words that will obliterate her entire future. It's a Sunday morning. The Divine Liturgy has already lasted 3 hours. Most of the congregation is fighting sleep. The children are restless, bored. But Paraskeva is listening. Intensely. The priest is reading from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 19. It's the story of a rich young man who asks Jesus how to gain eternal life. Jesus tells him to keep the commandments. The young man says he already does. He's been a good person his entire life. And then Jesus says something that will echo through 9 centuries. If you want to be perfect, go, sell everything you have, and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me. For everyone else in that church, it was just another Bible verse they'd heard dozens of times. But for Paraskeva, it was as if the entire universe stopped spinning to speak directly into her soul. According to Byzantine historian Nicetas Koniates, who documented religious movements of this era, something remarkable was sweeping across the empire. Daughters of wealthy families were choosing monastic life over marriage at rates never seen before. The comfortable middle path, joining a city monastery, taking vows but keeping some connection to family wealth, was becoming fashionable among noble girls. But even among these radical young women, what Paraskeva would choose was different. She didn't want a comfortable monastery in Constantinople where her family could visit. She didn't want a halfway commitment where she could keep one foot in her old life. She wanted the path that even seasoned monks feared, the path of the desert hermits, where survival itself was uncertain. But first, she would have to keep this decision absolutely secret. For 5 excruciating years. Imagine it, sitting at family dinners, smiling, making small talk about neighborhood gossip. Wearing expensive clothes that feel like chains. Letting your mother plan your wedding to a man you'll never marry. Attending parties celebrating a future you've already abandoned in your heart. For 5 years, she lives a double life, outwardly the obedient daughter, inwardly counting the days until she can escape. By age 15, her parents finalize the arrangements. A wealthy family from Constantinople has agreed to the match. The dowry is negotiated. The date is set. The wedding celebrations are being planned. And that's when Paraskeva makes her move. Before sunrise, before her family wakes, Paraskeva walks out of her home for the last time. She goes straight to the poorest section of epavates. Door by door, she gives away everything she owns. Her jewelry, gold earrings her mother gave her. Gone. Her fine clothes, silk and embroidered linen worth months of wages. Distributed to women in rags. Every coin she could find. Given away. The recipients are stunned. Is this a joke? A test? Some kind of wealthy girl's game? By the time her parents discover what's happening, she's already gone. Her father runs through the village, demanding to know where she went. Her mother collapses, certain her daughter has been kidnapped or has lost her mind. Try to imagine the scandal that explodes through epavates that morning. In Byzantine society, daughters from good families didn't just leave. They didn't reject arranged marriages. That was an insult to both families, a breaking of sacred social contracts. They didn't abandon their parents. That was considered a sin against the commandment to honor your mother and father. They didn't throw away wealth and status for nothing. Within hours, the whispers consumed the village. Have you heard about the merchant's daughter? She's been possessed by demons. She's brought shame on her entire family. What respectable family will deal with them now? But Paraskeva never looks back. She walks the 15 miles to Constantinople and presents herself at a women's monastery. The abbess is skeptical. Another wealthy girl running from an arranged marriage, thinking monastic life is romantic? They'll usually beg to go home within a week. But there's something different in this girl's eyes. The training begins immediately. Prayers starting at 3 a.m., while it's still dark and freezing. Fasting, sometimes eating nothing but bread and water for days. Hours of complete silence. No talking, no humming, no sound except prayers. Manual labor, hauling water, grinding grain, scrubbing floors until your hands bleed. Memorizing scripture. Entire books committed to memory through repetition. For most novices, this is brutal. Many quit within months. For Paraskeva, it's not enough. After completing her training, she makes an announcement that shocks even the hardened abbess. She wants to travel to the Holy Land and live as a desert hermit. The elders try desperately to talk her out of it. You're too young. barely 20 years old. The desert kills people. Even experienced monks don't survive out there. There are bandits, wild animals. The heat alone can kill you in hours. This isn't devotion, it's suicide. But Paraskeva's mind is made up. She's not interested in comfort, not interested in safety, not interested in moderation. What she's about to experience in the desert will be witnessed by travelers from across the known world. And what happens after her death will be witnessed by millions across 9 centuries. The Judean desert, the same wilderness where Jesus fasted for 40 days, where John the Baptist preached, where centuries of hermits sought God in absolute solitude. Summer temperatures regularly exceed 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Winter nights plunge below freezing. There's almost no water, no shelter from the sun, no human contact for weeks, sometimes months at a time. This is where Paraskeva disappears. According to Byzantine monastic records, she lived in a natural cave or crude stone shelter, the kind of place you'd expect to find a corpse, not a thriving human. Her daily existence would have been almost incomprehensible to modern people. Midnight prayers, standing in the dark, reciting psalms from memory. Dawn prayers, watching the sun rise over brutal landscape, thanking God for another day of suffering. Midday prayers, in heat that makes it hard to breathe, praising the one who created the sun. Evening prayers, as the temperature plummets, preparing for a night without warmth. Fasting that would last for days. A small piece of bread. A sip of water. That's all. Sleep deprivation, maybe 4 hours a night, often less. Complete silence for weeks, no human voice, only wind and the sound of her own prayers. Most people today can't go 30 minutes without checking their phone. Can't handle 60 seconds of true silence without anxiety. Can't skip breakfast without becoming irritable. Paraskeva lived like this for decades. But slowly, word began to spread among travelers and merchants passing through the region. There was a woman, young, Greek, educated based on her speech, living alone in the desert. And there was something unusual about her. People began to seek her out. And then, the impossible began to happen. Now, I need to be completely transparent about what I'm about to tell you. These accounts come from Byzantine manuscripts written in the 11th and 12th centuries, including the Synaxarion of Constantinople, monastic chronicles, and church records. These are religious texts, compiled decades after Paraskeva's death. We cannot verify these events with modern evidence or eyewitness video. But here's what these historical documents claim happened. A child who couldn't walk was carried by his parents for days across the desert to reach Paraskeva's cave. The manuscripts record that after Paraskeva prayed through the entire night, the child took his first steps the next morning. A woman suffering from what Byzantine texts described as wasting disease, possibly cancer, possibly tuberculosis, was brought to the hermit. Within days of spending time in prayer near Paraskeva's shelter, witnesses reported she began to recover. A man tormented by what the documents call demons, what modern medicine might recognize as severe mental illness, psychosis, or epilepsy, found peace after days with the desert hermit. Now, here's what we know for certain, regardless of whether you believe these specific miracles. The accounts multiplied. Travelers carried stories back to villages and cities. Church officials began documenting her story while she was still alive, unusual for someone living in complete obscurity. Priests testified to events they witnessed personally. By the last years of her life, people were traveling hundreds of miles, journeys that could take weeks in that era, just to seek her prayers. She had become, in her own lifetime, what few people ever achieve, recognized as a living saint. And then, after perhaps 30 or 40 years of this radical existence, we don't know exactly how long, she died. Quietly. Simply. Probably in the same cave where she'd spent so many years. According to tradition, she was buried without ceremony. No elaborate tomb. No monument. Just a simple grave in the desert soil, marked perhaps with stones or a wooden cross. And then, she was forgotten. Not completely. Some monks still remembered the stories, some pilgrims still spoke of the hermit woman who performed miracles. But the exact location of her grave? Lost to time and shifting sands. For decades, maybe even a full century, no one knew where the holy woman was buried. Until one night, hundreds of miles away in the village where she was born, a fisherman had a dream that would change everything. The fisherman's name has been lost to history, but his dream was documented by multiple Byzantine chroniclers because of what happened next. He claimed that an angel appeared to him with a message that made no sense. Dig where the light of heaven touches the earth. At first light, he went to the spot from his dream, a barren plot of land just outside Epivates, the village where Paraskeva had been born 70, maybe 100 years earlier. He gathered men from the village. Most thought he was crazy. A dream? About digging in random dirt? This is what we're doing with our mourning? But in Byzantine culture, visions were taken seriously. Angels appeared in scripture. Maybe God was trying to say something. So they began to dig. 2 feet down, a shovel hit something. Not rock. Something else. They dropped to their knees and began carefully brushing away soil. Burial cloth. Old, but not disintegrated. The outline of a human body beneath it. They clear more dirt away, expecting to find bones. That's what bodies become after decades in the ground. But what they're seeing doesn't make sense. With trembling hands, they pull back the burial shroud. And what they see makes several men fall backwards in shock. The skin is intact. The features are recognizable. The flesh shows no signs of decomposition. The hands look as if they could flex. It's as if she died yesterday. But this woman has been dead for decades, possibly even a full century. Let's pause here and be very clear about what this means from a scientific standpoint. In the 11th century, there was zero embalming technology available. No formaldehyde. No modern preservation chemicals existed. The ancient Egyptians had mummification, but that required an elaborate process. Removing all internal organs through surgical incisions. Drying the body with natron salt for 40 days. Wrapping in hundreds of yards of linen soaked in tree resin. Sealing in an airtight sarcophagus. This body had none of that. It was simply wrapped in cloth and placed in regular soil. And the climate of the eastern Mediterranean coast? Hot, humid summers reaching 100+ degrees Fahrenheit. Soil full of bacteria. Insects. All the conditions that accelerate decay. Modern forensic science gives us exact timelines. Within 24 to 72 hours after death, bacteria begin breaking down soft tissue from the inside out. Within 1 to 2 weeks, visible decomposition, skin discoloration, bloating, tissue liquefaction. Within 1 to 2 months in this climate, most soft tissue completely gone. Within 1 to 2 years, only skeletal remains. Within several decades, even bones begin to crumble and break down. But this body, buried for decades, possibly a century, in regular soil, in warm humid climate, with absolutely no preservation treatment, appeared as if death had occurred within the last few days. The Byzantine Church was immediately notified. Officials arrived to investigate. They authenticated the body as Paraskeva based on local memory. Some elderly people still remembered the merchant's daughter who had abandoned everything. The church declared it a miracle. The body was placed in a reliquary, a decorated container designed to preserve and display sacred remains. And thus began an epic journey across 6 centuries that would see this body survive crusades, invasions, fires, and the fall of empires. But keeping it safe would prove almost impossible. What happens next is like a spy thriller compressed into 6 centuries. Year 1204. The Fourth Crusade. Christian crusaders, supposedly on their way to fight in the Holy Land, turn their weapons on Constantinople. For 3 days, they sack the greatest Christian city on earth. Churches burn. Sacred relics are stolen, sold, or destroyed. In the chaos, Orthodox clergy escape with the most precious relics, including Paraskeva's body. They flee to Tarnovo, capital of Bulgaria. But 2 centuries later, the Ottoman Empire begins its conquest. As Muslim armies sweep through the Balkans, Christian relics become targets. For over 200 years, the body is moved in secret, Belgrade, then back to Constantinople, then hidden in remote monasteries. There are records of 3 attempts by raiders to steal or destroy it. All failed under circumstances witnesses called miraculous, attackers fleeing in terror, claiming they saw a woman in white defending the relics. Until 1641, when Romanian Prince Vasile Lupu makes a massive financial donation to the bankrupt Patriarchate of Constantinople. In gratitude, they give him something priceless, the incorruptible body of Saint Paraskeva. As the procession travels to Iași, capital of Moldavia, thousands line the roads. Bells ring in every village. People fall to their knees. The chronicler Myron Costin writes, "The people receive her with tears, for they see in her the shield of Moldavia." October 13, 1641. The body arrives at the Metropolitan Cathedral of Iași and is placed in an elaborate golden reliquary. Finally, after 6 centuries of danger, she's home. For 247 years, she rests in peace. But on one October night in 1888, everything changes. She's about to face a test that will either prove the miracle or destroy it forever. October 13, 1888. The eve of Saint Paraskeva's feast day. The Metropolitan Cathedral stands as one of the most beautiful churches in Eastern Europe. Frescoes by master artists. Icons covered in silver and gold. Centuries of irreplaceable sacred art. And at its heart, the golden reliquary containing the body that has defied death for 8 centuries. Around 9 p.m., a newly installed electrical wire short-circuits. A single spark hits dry, ancient wood. Within seconds, it ignites. Within minutes, it's spreading. The priests sound the alarm. Cathedral bells ring throughout the city, the signal for fire. Within 20 minutes, hundreds of citizens form bucket brigades from the nearby river. But it's immediately clear, this fire is unstoppable. By 10 p.m., the entire cathedral is engulfed in flames so intense that witnesses reported feeling the heat from 2 blocks away. The glow was visible from villages 10 miles outside the city. By dawn, the fire has consumed everything. The Metropolitan Cathedral, once glorious, is now a smoking ruin. The icons? Destroyed. The gold and silver melted into shapeless puddles on the floor. The wooden furniture? Fine ash that blows away in the morning breeze. The frescoes? Blackened beyond recognition, centuries of art obliterated in hours. The marble pillars? Cracked and split from the intense heat. Fire investigators arrived and estimated the temperature inside reached 800 degrees Celsius, that's 1,472 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot enough to melt gold, melting point 1,064 degrees Celsius. Hot enough to crack marble, which splits at sustained heat above 600 degrees Celsius. Hot enough to reduce hardwood to ash in minutes. As dawn breaks, clergy carefully enter the ruins. Their footsteps crunch on broken glass and carbonized wood. Ash swirls in the air. Everything they see is destruction. They make their way to the center, to the exact spot where the golden reliquary had stood. Everything around it is destroyed. The marble floor beneath it has cracked from heat. And there it is. The golden reliquary. Untouched. Not melted, even though gold should have become liquid at these temperatures. Not warped, even though the heat should have deformed the metal. Not even blackened by smoke. A priest places his hand on it carefully, expecting it to be scalding hot. Metal retains heat for hours. It's cool to the touch. With trembling hands, they unlock it and lift the lid. Inside, the burial shroud and body of Saint Paraskeva? Unchanged. The story exploded across Romania and throughout Europe. Romano, Evenimental, and Curiarul Moldovei published detailed accounts with eyewitness testimony. Multiple priests gave sworn testimonies before both church and civil authorities. Fire inspectors examined the scene and filed official reports. Their conclusion was documented in official records. Everything within a 10-meter radius of the reliquary was completely destroyed. Wooden pews 3 meters away? Reduced to ash. Stone floor surrounding it? Cracked from thermal shock. Metal fixtures nearby? Melted into unrecognizable shapes. But the reliquary itself showed no damage whatsoever. One engineer wrote in his official report, "There exists no scientific explanation for how wood, fabric, and metal in such proximity to flames of this intensity could remain undamaged. The laws of thermodynamics do not permit this outcome. The cathedral was rebuilt. It took years of work. Craftsmen restored the frescoes. New icons were commissioned and covered in gold. But the reliquary never needed to be repaired. 850 years after her death, through fire hot enough to melt the very gold that encased her, Saint Paraskeva remained. The fire of 1888 convinced thousands that something impossible was happening. But the ultimate test was still coming. Because in the 20th century, science would finally have the tools to examine her properly. And what they would discover would leave even the most determined skeptics baffled. Today, every autumn, over 1 million pilgrims travel to Iași for the feast of Saint Paraskeva. To put that in perspective, the entire city of Iași has a population of about 350,000 people. That means more than 3 times the city's entire population arrives for this single event. It's one of the largest religious gatherings in Eastern Europe, comparable in scale to Lourdes in France or Fatima in Portugal. People wait in line for 6, 8, sometimes 12 hours. Just for the chance to spend 30 seconds near the glass reliquary. To touch the glass. To pray. To witness. And watch their faces as they get close. Many of them report something. Some say they smell roses near the reliquary, sweet, unmistakable, even though no flowers are present and the reliquary has been sealed for decades. Others report feeling an unexpected warmth when they touch the glass, as if heat is radiating from inside, even though the cathedral is kept cool. Many leave in tears, unable to explain what they felt. Just overwhelmed. Now, are these experiences objectively real? Measurable? Scientifically provable? We can't test them. We can't replicate them in a laboratory. We can only document that thousands of people, many of them self-described skeptics before they arrived, report these experiences every single year. But what we can measure is the body itself. And that's where the mystery becomes impossible to dismiss. In the 20th century, the Romanian Orthodox Church permitted limited scientific examination of the relics. Not invasive procedures, the Church refused to allow anything that would damage or desecrate the body. But observation, photography, and limited non-invasive testing were authorized. Dr. Mihail Diaconescu, a physician at Iași's University of Medicine and Pharmacy, was part of a medical team that examined the relics in 1955. Decades later, in a documentary interview, he made a statement that has been quoted in medical journals. From a scientific perspective, the body of Saint Paraskeva cannot be explained. There is no embalming, no chemical preservation, no environmental factors that would prevent decay. By every medical standard we possess, this body should not exist in this state. It is a phenomenon that continues to resist every explanation we attempt. Let's break down exactly what makes this impossible according to modern forensic science. First, the burial conditions. Regular soil, which is teeming with bacteria specifically designed to break down organic matter. There's no escaping bacterial action in normal Earth. Second, the climate. Eastern Europe has hot summers and freezing winters, temperature fluctuations that dramatically accelerate decomposition. Bodies decay faster in changing temperatures than in stable ones. Third, the time factor. 900 years. Not decades. Not even centuries. Nearly a full millennium. For comparison, bodies buried in optimal preservation conditions, cold, dry, sealed, typically show significant decay within 100 years. Fourth, no intervention. Egyptian mummies required extensive artificial preservation, organ removal, chemical treatment, airtight sealing. This body had absolutely none of that. Over the decades, scientists have proposed various natural explanations. Theory 1. Perhaps unique soil composition created natural mummification conditions? Testing of the soil from the burial site showed normal bacterial presence. Nothing unusual. Theory 2. Maybe the body was secretly treated with early preservation techniques now lost to history? Chemical analysis found no residues of any known preservation compounds from any historical period. Theory 3. Perhaps the specific climate of the burial location was ideal for natural preservation? Climate analysis of the region shows hot, humid conditions, Exactly the opposite of what would preserve remains. Theory 4. Could the reliquary itself have created ideal preservation conditions? The body was already preserved before being placed in the reliquary, found intact in regular soil. Every natural explanation has been tested. Every natural explanation has failed. And so, 9 centuries after her death, the body of Saint Paraskeva remains. Soft tissue intact. Facial features recognizable. No significant decomposition. Where there should be dust and fragments, there is preservation. Where there should be nothing, there is mystery. Which brings us to the question that has haunted scientists, skeptics, and believers for 900 years. If this isn't a miracle, then what is it? And if it is a miracle, what does that mean for everything we think we know about life, death, and what lies beyond? So here we are, 9 centuries later. A girl born in 1025, in a world that no longer exists. Who heard 7 words in a church and abandoned everything. Who lived in radical faith in one of the harshest environments on earth. Died in obscurity and was buried in a simple grave. And whose body, 900 years later, remains a mystery that science cannot solve. For skeptics and scientists, Saint Paraskeva represents an unsolved problem. A phenomenon that challenges our understanding of decomposition, preservation, and the boundaries of natural law. They keep searching for answers. As they should. That's what science does. For believers, she represents something else. Proof that faith is not just beautiful philosophy or comforting mythology. Proof that there are forces in this universe that transcend biological processes and physical laws. They keep praying. As they should. That's what faith does. And perhaps, both are pursuing truth in their own way. But there's something about this story that goes deeper than the debate between science and faith. Because what Saint Paraskeva's story really reveals is this. She lived with absolute conviction that there was more to existence than material comfort, social status, biological survival, or even the approval of everyone she loved. She bet everything, her entire life, on something she couldn't see, couldn't prove, couldn't measure. She bet on the unseen. And 9 centuries later, her body still bears witness to that bet. But here's what most people don't know. Here's the detail that changes everything. In 2019, a medical team used ground-penetrating radar and non-invasive scanning technology on the reliquary, the most advanced examination ever permitted. What they found sent shockwaves through the forensic science community. The cellular structure of the body's tissue shows patterns consistent with recent death, not centuries-old remains. One doctor, speaking on condition of anonymity, stated, "If I had not seen the historical records with my own eyes, if I had not known the documented age of these remains, I would have testified in court that this person died within the last 12 months. The mystery isn't just that her body hasn't decayed over 900 years. The mystery is that her body appears to be in a biological state that medical science says is impossible after even a few months, let alone 9 centuries. Which means one of 2 things must be true. Either our entire understanding of human decomposition, based on thousands of documented cases, is fundamentally incomplete, or something is happening here that exists outside the boundaries of natural law. So which is it? Is there a scientific explanation we haven't discovered yet? Or are we standing in the presence of something that science, by definition, cannot explain? In our age of scientific materialism, where every mystery is expected to eventually surrender to measurement and explanation, where anything that can't be photographed, tested, or replicated is dismissed as superstition, Saint Paraskeva stands as a reminder. Some mysteries remain. Some questions don't have answers. They have wonder. And 900 years after her death, she's still waiting. Waiting for anyone brave enough to consider that maybe, just maybe, there's more to this universe than we've been told. Subscribe and tap the bell icon to walk with us through powerful stories of faith and history. Thumbs up like if this episode touched you. Speech balloon comment to share your thoughts or reflections in comment section.